before lunch, after lunch. Hi, I think that's what they eat maybe. Are they getting hyper because of they eat? Do they eat sugar or what is?
I think it's like dairy.
To learn.
Like they actually came to me and asked me.
Like for example, in the Facebook I have the students, but in the front page, the attendance, I don't have it on.
You don't have all of your students. Click the edit button. You probably have to edit it and fill like auto fill to update your roster.
No, if my roster is okay, you do the attendance on the front page, and it's when it's home.
Instance, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. There's a little edit button right at the top. Yeah.
Autofill, like fill like.
Yeah, but I realized it took me
Chambers have to be with me now. So I don't know if you have her.
I have, she comes to see me what she's supposed to be there.
She's supposed to stay after school.
Okay, 30-second warning, 30-second warning, then we report.
This is after school, so it's like, and then I'm trying to model this.
Like I give an attitude and everything. And so much.
You the man? Nice, so you got those days.
Exactly. I said that too. I said, well, you just gave me so much now. I'm surprised you had to do that. She was like, I'm sorry,
Always mess up because it's like, yo, so like I'm so
and he did not go to the school.
It's not he does this whole
Okay, we are ready to report. Can you get one person from your table to read your principal very briefly and then tell us what you came up with? How did you foster it? Yes, sir.
So we have Principle 2, and it says the teacher provides learning opportunities and supports students' intellectual, social, and personal development. So in response to that, we had a couple different ideas. One was journal entries. So that could either be reflective journal entries of the students to reflect upon any lab experiences or something else that they've had in class in order to develop themselves intellectually, socially, emotionally, or it could be journal entries by the teacher observing the students in the classroom and figuring out how they could change their instruction to be able to reach those sorts of things. Okay, so paying attention to extracurricular involvements, so basically eavesdropping on what, it's like, or even asking them directly, like, do you have a game today, or something else like that, that you can go to and be able to support them in that role to let you know that you're part of the community, but also interested in their personal lives, aside from being students. Public speaking presentations in class, so like giving them the opportunity to be able to report out in class and be able to share their thoughts and feelings, that's a really good thing. And then having peer interaction, like peer review of that sort of process is also good. Extra readings, extracurricular activity. I have a small library in my classroom in one of my cabinets that's like a bunch of books about science and philosophy and like math and all this other stuff that for like especially for my IB kids, I'm like, hey, if you're more interested in this topic, like this is some cool reading if you want to know more about this. Deadlines for punctuality, so helping them to be able to like sort of reinforce goals in their minds and be able to get to them in a timely manner. Cooperative learning opportunities, so working together in groups or within the class, like shifting up instruction, making it more student-based learning so that they take more of that initiative and responsibility on their shoulders. Outreach programs, so such things as being able to connect the students to local colleges or volunteer opportunities within the community, being able to establish themselves in those so that they see that the school is more than just within the building. Rules of conduct, so calling their attention to infractions, so when you start off the year, like making your procedures and routines very clear at the beginning of the year so that then whenever there's like contract infractions or something like that, you can point back to those rules and procedures and routines and keep that classroom environment what you want it to be. Teaching character traits by example, so modeling what you want to see in terms of even responses to students to infractions or something like that, like, you know, how you respond to those could model how you would want your students to be able to respond in the case of an infraction. And then altering instruction to accommodate students' interests. So like, for example, if I was going to be teaching cell theory or something like that and how cells work, but I knew a lot of my students in the class were really interested in cancer, and that was like a big thing that they're maybe because they have relatives or something else that have cancer, I could alter my instruction so that when we were learning about cells, we were learning about cells in the context of cancer, because cancer is just undifferentiated cell growth. So if we could just get them to, you know, sort of go down that track, we have an end goal in mind is how does cancer work, but along the way we learn about all the stuff that we need to hit for ourselves.
Making it relevant for them.
Yeah.
Okay, those are excellent. Oh my gosh, you guys had a lot of things. Yay. Okay, what did you guys get? What is your principal? Here, read the principal.
Principle number one, the teacher understands how to create learning experiences that make the subject matter meaningful to students.
So we kind of broke it down by our content area, like food and nutrition in particular likes to try to keep interest with tasks that the students can actually do, like that are manageable, such as like presenting a TV show. In English, we're working on trying to do things that are hands-on and finding things that the students are actually going to be interested in, so finding out like like my kids are a lot of theater kids, so I try to think about that. And then in art, they do a lot of real-world connection and timely activities, things that are like actually happening right now for them to make those connections.
That's very good, okay. Yay. Can we get this table? Who's our reader? And
Go for it, guys.
Well, our principle is principle number 5. The teacher uses an understanding of group motivation to create a positive learning environment. We went with, we all pretty much do the same thing. We pretty well jam in enough work that we think can be done in 90 to 100 minutes. But if the kids get off task, and then they have homework. And instead we don't really assign homework, we just cram a lot of work in 100 minutes. And the kids know if they start talking and we have, we'll wait. And while we wait, that the teachers wait, it means the students are, probably gonna get homework. So yeah, so it's more them saying, shh, we're just kind of getting them back on track. When kids get their peers back on track, it's a lot better than a 45, 25-year-old kid, it doesn't matter.
ah, very nice. Okay, you guys are holding that secret over there?
Peer pressure
Yeah, peer
to
pressure.
stay on task so you can get the work done, and that way there's no homework. I give due dates.
Wow.
Get done by this date, okay.
Okay, what about you guys?
So ours was the teacher understands how students differ in their approaches to learning. So we said doing handwritten assignments and also typed assignments because some students prefer writing it by hand and then other students prefer it being typed. Also giving more challenging work to the high flyers so that they remain engaged. Also to piggyback off of that, so if a student finishes their work early, letting them move on to maybe the next chapter even if that wasn't a part of your lesson.
And that's so true, because you'll lose the high flyer being bored, and then they'll find something else to do to entertain themselves.
Yeah,
So, very good. Okay, so this was, I learned, just from listening to you all, I learned a lot. You guys had some outstanding ideas. Okay, so let's move on here. A psychologically safe classroom is something that you want to establish so that your kids can feel comfortable asking for help. A lot of kids won't raise their hand. I know I have a daughter who's really, really shy. And if she feels like people are going to perceive her a certain way by asking for help, she's not one to raise her hand and say, I don't understand it. But if you can help overcome that, because the quiet kids may not be causing any trouble, but they still may not be quite understanding and grasping the concepts. So you want to make sure you don't have an environment that is not going to make them want to ask for help. You want to make them try new ideas. put them in a classroom, like for me, we do, my guys are in a class by themselves. I do separation for my beginning guys because I want them to be in an environment where when their voice cracks for the 5th time in one class period, nobody's going to ridicule them. So if girls were around, they're too cool to sing, they won't even try because they're afraid that, you know, the girls are going to laugh at them. But in their class, we crack about 5 or 6 times class period. It's okay, we're growing. Losing fear of failure, that if they don't get it right, the class is not going to laugh at them, there's not going to be teasing, that sort of thing, that they can work in groups, and we all know the benefits of collaborative work and how that enhances learning, that they can solve problems, they're going to feel confident that they don't have to come to you or say, I don't understand, they will sit down and take the effort to get started, that they can actually make suggestions. A lot of kids, and I find this happens every day now, they're taking more initiative. They give me a suggestion every day, especially about how junky my piano is. Miss Blue, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? So we'll do it. I tell them to go ahead and do it, and actually they're doing a great job. So, you know, they can enhance the learning just with their ideas. And of course, building confidence. So, and we're going to talk more about what a psychologically safe environment looks like. This is what it looks like in the workforce. Because, and if you'll notice, there's a lot of things that kind of overlap. In a psychologically safe environment, the teacher or the manager in the business world anticipates reactions. Remember we were talking about that with classroom discipline, anticipating what will happen. Approach conflict as a collaborator and not an adversary. So if there's trouble in your classroom, you know, don't come as someone who's the enemy, you know, automatically putting down the hammer of discipline. Find out, you know, well, what's going on? What can I do to help you? What's the root cause? What can we do so that you can do better at this, so that this doesn't keep happening? I had a student that would come in late almost every first period last year. I called her home. I gave her detention. I talked to her. I finally got Mr. Holler to talk to her. That got her straight for a couple of weeks, and then she went back off track. But, you know, I didn't come initially as just somebody fussing, and because I don't know what she goes through in the morning. I just kept talking to her, well, what's going on? You know, why are you setting your alarm? You need me to give you a call? I'll give you a wake-up call. I get up at 4:15. You want me to give you? No. I was like, okay, well, we need you here on time. I think I did call her once or twice. Nobody answered the phone. But, you know, I was like, you're going to get here on time. We're going to do what we have to do. So let's work to solve this together. Speak human to human. You know, that conferring of dignity that we talked about. That also was one of the elements of classroom management and good discipline. Replace blame with curiosity. That's approaching as a collaborator and not an adversary. So in the business world, the psychologically safe environment, it humor increases. Remember we talked about charismatic teaching. So a lot of these things overlap to make the classroom environment a place where discipline won't be quite as much of a problem. So we want to have a psychologically safe environment where kids feel safe, where there's not going to be teasing, where there's zero tolerance for that, where it's corrected immediately, it's demonstrated, it's modeled. You know, if someone's...
Right, and the thing about a work environment, most companies, well, all companies, have rules of engagement. These are the 9 rules that get you fired. And I used to hand those rules out to the cars to everybody and said, I'm a representative of the company, and I will do my job whether you like it or not. And they have to understand, when you go into a business environment, it is a harsh environment. They're there to make a profit. You're kind of actually setting them up so they can go through all this now and have the issues now. It's okay. Because, you know, okay, we write them up, have an infraction, they go, somebody speaks to them. You do that too many times at Newport Shipbuilding or someone else, what's going to happen there? You're going to lose your job that you were making $600, $700 a week. I had an 18-year-old student, 18-year-old kids making $600 a week. Okay? And they get paid to sit in class at the principal, the same pay rate, $21 an hour. And the cell phone issue, that company had a no cell phone with a camera on it. You guys have a no cell phone policy here, to some extent, I understand. They have a zero tolerance for that. Kid walking down the hall with his finger over the phone, over the little camera. I got stopped, fired him on the spot.
Wow.
Had no issues about it. I told him, I have no empathy on that because I make pretty good money here. So I'm going to do my job, and that's what companies do. They didn't make a profit. And a lot of times they don't understand that until they lose their first or second or third job, and then they go, ooh, I got to change on this. Because, again, I always tell them, man, you know, right now you guys are living a dreamland. This is Candyland. Because this ain't real. Real is when you pay rent each month. That's what you're getting ready to go to, because when you get 18 and graduate here, if you come back, it's trespassing. Right?
Lynn, do you mind, I know we're, I don't wanna go too far off script, I just wanna say this, cause you were talking about, can you go back to that last one?
I certainly
Okay. So we were talking about why new teachers are leaving, I actually think, I'm just gonna throw this out here. I've had some pretty outrageous things said to me, even though we're professionals and we keep teaching, it's.
We're
it
still
is hurtful.
human, right.
And I actually think, yes, we've all heard how nice we need to be and
Right.
professional. We're in a room with new teachers who are getting, in many cases, very horrible things.
Yeah.
Badgered, harassed,
Yeah.
things said to them.
I'm not joking.
Yeah.
And I feel like this talk should be given to students
kids?
as well. If we're gonna talk human to human, and I'm
Yeah,
gonna be
they have-
funny
they have-
too, then you can't go off on me every day and completely demean me.
Right.
So, let's
And
face
nice
it,
doesn't mean,
you know.
Yeah,
nice
yeah,
doesn't mean
absolutely.
weak.
No, and you know, I have
right.
good discipline, I'm more
Right.
worried about my new
Yes.
teachers, this is very demeaning.
Mhm.
So yes, we all acknowledge that we are the professionals, there are
Right.
only 4 professionals, and we're one of them.
Right.
So yes, we have to rise above and we have to be just like this for the students. I think in order to keep new teachers, we've got to have an education program moving forward, because I'm CTE, I agree with you, people are losing jobs for outrageous reasons
Yes.
that we've never had to worry about. When you spend 4 years completely going off on every adult in the building and using very harsh language and all these things that we are exposed to, we're certainly not helping them be productive in the workforce.
No.
So,
And this-
I don't want anybody to think that you have to, as a new teacher, have to completely, give up your soul for this,
Oh,
because
no,
these
you
kids.
set a standard and
Yeah.
keep to it, and
I
the
know.
administration, whether, I hope they're in here, should be backing you up.
You do
Because
them.
the work environment, when you get to a real job, they're not gonna tolerate that.
No,
Yeah.
no. And you do your students a bigger favor by establishing discipline. They don't want to sit in a classroom that's unorganized, where people are cursing, where there's negativity. I can't learn in that kind of environment, and as soon as I hear it in my classroom, and those of you that know me, I'm very firm on discipline. I can be the nicest person in the world, but I'm gonna be consistent. I'm gonna have a 0 tolerance for that. You know, as soon as I hear a curse word, excuse me, don't say that in my classroom. We have a point deduction system. If you say it again, you're gonna get detention or whatever, and there's gonna be follow through. It's not something that, and I'll tell them, and sometimes you don't even have to like, excuse me, I don't have that, I don't even hang around adults that curse. So please don't do that. I have Disney rated ears, and you're burning them right now, so please don't do that, you know, and just with that bit of humor, you know, the kids will kind of chuckle, but they'll get the point that I don't do that. I don't have that in my classroom. Don't bring that language in here. And I'll explain to them, you're changing my environment, and I can't teach in this, so don't do that. You know, explain to them sometimes, like I said, we can create a psychologically safe environment without lowering our standards. It doesn't mean that we're smiling in their face, that we're bending over backwards. If they say something to you that is inappropriate, you know, they want an audience. You send them out to, I'll be out in a second. Give them 30 seconds to cool off. Give yourself 30 seconds to cool off, because sometimes we need the 30 seconds more than they do. You know, and then go out there and have a talk with them about that. Or, you know, send them to their buddy teacher. Call their parent. Let them know, I'm not going to tolerate that. If they do it again, there's going to be consequences and repercussions, however you follow that through in your classroom.
Yeah, and most likely, you're dealing with 1 or 2, maybe 1 in the classroom, and all it takes is 1. But the rest of the class is looking at how you handle that. So you got to be professional about it. And what I like to do is, I had it this morning, I had 2 this morning, and I step outside, you know, and I usually don't do that, and the rest of the students are like, ooh, things got, I said, what, things get quiet in here? What's going on? And acknowledge that, to break that tension, and go out here and have a talk, you know, what's causing this? This is what we're gonna do and what I expect, and if you don't do it, this is the consequences, and I like writing the infractions up, I'm good with this.
Can I give
And that usually gets them too.
Yes, I was going to ask him
an example? Today, it happened just today, honestly. One of my students, she was giving me attitude, and I said, oh, you're giving me a lot of attitude today. And she said, what do you mean I'm giving you attitude? And I said, oh, whoa. See how you just, I'm surprised your neck didn't just fall off. And she started laughing, and I said, yeah.
Yeah.
See,
And
and
I
then it
got that
completely
turned
went from
around.
100 to 10.
turns
It's a 10.
around. Yeah, if
You
you
can
And-
diffuse that,
Yeah,
that's a good way to
exactly.
diffuse that.
Yes.
I have a friend, when they come in, I say, don't crick your neck at me, you're gonna hurt yourself,
Bobble
don't do
head.
that. You know,
Bobble
so,
head.
you know, like you said, you can turn it around, and you can do it without having, and that's kind of a collaborative manner that you're approaching it, not as an adversary, and it quickly diffuses it from turning into, because once you become adversarial with the student,
Yeah, you raise
it's
your
hard
level, they're
to-
gonna raise, it's gotta stop.
It's
sometimes,
hard
so
to
you gotta
turn it-
isolate them.
turn
You
it
gotta
around.
calm down, so you got more, you got 20 others, or how many you got in the classroom, you gotta take
25.
care of too, so.
Right, and it's not, so it's not always gonna be flowers and daisies, but, I kind of view discipline as a bank. I establish an account with each student. When they come in the class, we're at 100. And if something happens and it goes down, like a negative moment, I make sure before they leave, I deposit more positivity into that relationship, so that when they return the next time, we're not at this same place. We can kind of start at the same positive place that we began with this
Right,
time.
a good method for that, and I've used this before at, I taught a lot of adult ed too and so forth, and it's not all about, bringing the hammer down. But after you speak to a student, you put them back in the room, so I do. And I wait 5 to 10 minutes, and I go right over there like it never happened. Hey, what do I need to help you with now? You go right back to them, and the rest of the class sees, I'm here to help. But
Right.
here's the
Don't
standard
hold
we're
a
gonna
grudge.
have, and you go back to that student and go, how can I help you get this done so we can be successful with that? Get something done good today. And you go right back to them, and flip the switch. You gotta have some time to calm down, which you go back to them with it, and like it never happened, because it's important.
Okay, so kind of what we just said, you can create a psychologically safe classroom by including all the cultures. Reinforcing shared values. Make an effort to get to know your students, like this table was saying, standing at the door, talking to them. You can find out all kinds of things just by standing at that door as they come in. Anticipating reactions and counter moves. So again, this kind of overlaps with the other things that we talked about. Make your expectations known, as one of the tables said. How we approach conflict. Remember that students have beliefs, perspectives, and opinions, just like we do. All right, so it's not always my way or the highway. Communication should be a two-way street. Now, of course, when you've got work to do, you've got to get them to get on your way quickly and understand that this is why it has to be my way, okay?
Are we in block scheduling here?
Yes, we're block scheduling. Okay,
We're not 4x4.
Oh, no, not that kind
Yeah,
of.
we're not
Oh.
4x4.
Okay, so now we talked about the most common reasons, could you pass these out, for classroom referrals here at Warwick. You're gonna get some discipline data, this came hot off the press
This is real.
from Mr. Kubrick.
There we go.
Discuss whether or not a more psychologically safe classroom environment could deter some of the major causes of referrals here at Warwick. And of course, we know we have a whole bunch of them. If you look at your discipline data, what is the top reason for our referrals? What's the big thing? Failure to comply. So that's a big one, and that happens in the classroom. Over 50% of our referrals right now, we've got 309 of them. You don't see it on here, but we're into the third month of school, and we've got 309 referrals already. So we're already off to a great start there with the referrals. So that's a lot. Yeah, by the end of the year, it's going to be into the thousands. So that classroom environment and failing to comply with what teachers are asking students to do is an issue that needs to be addressed. So could you go out, and I'll put up the psychologically safe environment tactics. Could you discuss amongst your tables for just a couple of moments what could be done
What can be done to alleviate so many write-ups?
as far as a psychologically safe classroom?
Clearly state the objectives.
Okay, so we'll give you about, do you only need like 60 seconds?
said if
Let's do
there's
60 seconds.
always-
You're right, that's on the right track. Yeah, I know.
having this behavior.
I need the candy.
So busy learning.
Doesn't like to do a lot of work.
Even half of the kids have.
And I can tell, just by the way the student reacts, that when I say, hey, and I say, Susan, really, get started to work right now, or something like that. I can tell by the way that I say it to him that he has
You have
a
no
sharp
idea
focus.
how, like
Right?
what you hear about
I
this.
know
I
that
got
if
a
I
girl,
push it any further than that, at that moment, he's
when
gonna
I
go
told her
off,
mom,
it's gonna become an issue.
mom
So I
told me
don't,
all
Yeah,
the
they'll
time.
shut down. This
Now,
generation will
she's
shut
not
down
doing
as soon as you
anywhere.
give
It's that
authoritative
not only
answers. So
you do,
what
it's
I've
all
found
her
to do is,
classes.
hey, don't you think we
I
need
say
to
like,
start
okay,
working
so
on this
we need to
because
solve
we
it.
have run out of time and use it
Yeah,
as
exactly.
weeds.
We need to solve the problem because she
Do it
didn't
that
turn
way,
in
it's-
any
it's
of
a little-
her
it's a subtle little
assignments. So
psychological
that
thing. They
we
fall right
change.
into
The
that.
student got a
They
job
go
and she
into it.
stopped. No, her
Look.
mom got a job and she used to be a
The man
full-time
says
mom
we
in
gotta do this, and I'm trying to help
so
you
now
get
she
there,
got a
because you know
job and
what?
she's
You
getting
put the pressure
another
on me
job.
too.
And I told the student, listen, your mom is
Yeah, we
getting
gotta do
her
this,
out
and we're
there.
gonna
It's just for you. You need a job. You need a group about her. Okay, so you need food. So help mom. Do your work. Okay? I understand. That's not gonna happen just like that. Just do your job. As I said, like I'm gonna give you a chance before the marking period ends. You're gonna turn in all the assessments that you can. And I gotta give you mom. Things are happening sometimes. It's not, I blame the parents because, oh, let me tell you, I'm from old school.
Some of them do, the thing is, some of them do know better. Yeah. You have to put it all in the thing.
Okay, are we ready to, just some people give us some feedback on that? So what kinds of things could a psychologically safe environment, could be occurring to make kids more willing to comply? Anybody have a response? Do you all need more talking time? You're finishing up? You're good or you're good? Okay.
I find it odd that disrespect is way down here, they said that was the thing.
Let me see which one. Oh, disrespect talking, yeah. Maybe people are writing it.
They're probably writing it as a.
It's better to apply.
Yeah.
Well, there's gonna be 16
Okay, if we could have everybody come back to the same accord. Okay, what kinds of things did you get? What could make kids, how could a psychologically safe environment foster more compliance and less insubordination? I heard some great answers. What'd you guys come up with? Yes?
So a lot of times that when people are in these arguments or anything, their fight or flight activates. And it really, what it does is it makes your muscles swollen and it decreases blood flow to your brain. So you're literally, whether you even know it or not, when you get in that situation, you are losing brain power and you're losing the ability to think in the moment. Right. So if you can get rid of that ignition, if you can get them out of fight or flight mode or not put them in that situation to begin with, a lot of times, like I had it today where I was getting irritated at the student and I found myself like being angry at him, and then I realized that actually caused more of a problem. That in the moment, it might seem like, okay, he's challenging you and you have to cut him up and say, look, I'm the boss and I have to do this, but at the same time that it's not productive in fostering the relationship in the long run. So now I have to sit there and go, okay, well I overreacted, now what do I do so he understands that I'm not there to attack him, but I'm there to facilitate what's going on.
That's an excellent example. Okay, what did you guys have? I heard some good things over here.
A lot of it's knowing your students.
Knowing your students.
Knowing your students. Knowing the students that you can push and they'll respond positively, or the student that if you push too hard,
It just
it
shuts
ends
down.
up being,
Yeah.
they either shut down or explode. And it's knowing how to kind of
Find that fine
nudge
line.
them
Yeah,
down.
I know exactly what you're talking about. What did you guys get? I heard some good things over there.
It's shutting down. Hey, not so much sugar. Come on.
I know, keep the sodas pumping.
What did we
I
say?
know,
We
exactly.
said a lot of good things.
I heard something when I came over there. I'm trying to think what were you guys saying.
I think we were talking about,
Yes.
So being consistent.